I'm happy to learn and receive your email that you are a tiger cub, not a cow cub. Only the realization I claim that I am a cow cub. Look at these great masters who used to narrate the story to help us to destroy the ignorance. And that is the journey of the self discovery that destroys the ignorance. Ignorance means incomplete knowledge. And that incomplete knowledge that I am the body, compare it, I am the cow cub, not the tiger cub. So that idea creates a wrong notions, and then I feel limited. And when I feel limited, I run after in the world outside for a permanent security, for permanent happiness, love, and wisdom. But I don't find there. You cannot have a permanent security in the world because the world is constantly changing from moment to moment. Body is changing. So I cannot find the permanent security. What is changing? So today we will focus on the step number 12 that helps us to awaken to the inner treasure, 6 inner treasures. So we'll have an introductory session and then we will go deeper. So our limitations created by our own mind causes the ignorance, and that limitation, my friend, causes endless suffering. And that suffering enters into our life with the difficult, crazy situations, events. Sorry. And it multiplies again and again. Can I say all these difficulties and the challenges created by the mind are imaginary? Now, how can you say I feel? I experience the suffering, I feel the pain, I experience the hatred and jealousy. No doubt, we also experience sweating, increased heart palpitation, and lot of symptoms once we wake up from the dream and we saw in the dream the tiger is chasing us. Is it not imaginary? Yes. Are the experiences not real? Yes. That brings us to the story. My Google Assistant sometime once listens and he speaks. So understand, pay attention. There was a washerman. In India, we had a washerman. Now, here we have a laundries. We can go there and put the coin, wash it, dry it, and bring it back. So now it is also there in India. But in ancient days, the washerman used to have donkeys as. So they used to wash the clothes in a river, freshwater river. They used to wash, they used to dry the clothes, and load it on the donkeys and return home, and then they used to distribute these clothes to their owners. We are want to understand how come these challenges and problems are imaginary, which we claim are real. It is the story about this. So this washerman has 5 donkeys. So he used to load the unwashed clothes. He used to go to the river, but the moment he used to reach the river, he used to tie all the donkeys with a rope on a tree. Otherwise, donkeys will run away. So he used to spend the entire day washing his clothes, washing and drying them up, and then loading them onto the donkeys, and ultimately reaching home. So on the way, sometime the washerman used to take a drink, a native hard drink, and he used to get intoxicated. Wife used to be extremely angry over him. That's a normal living in relationship. So one day he took lot of drink, he returned home, and the wife fought with him. Next day in the morning, he woke up with hangovers, and he took away loaded all the clothes on the 5 donkeys, approaching to the river. So now he wanted to tie all the donkeys with a rope on the tree. Oh, he missed one rope. The 5th donkey cannot be tied to the tree. The journey was pretty long, so he cannot return to his home to get the donkey, to get the rope. He was sitting disturbed. A wise man was passing by. So the wise man asked him, what happened? You see that this is my problem. I have the 4 ropes and I forgot the 5th one. So wise man said, I will solve your problem. So he asked, oh, here are the 4 donkeys. I could see you have tied it with the rope. So, no problem. You have tied all the 4 donkeys, and now push the 5th one, and he just what he did. For the 5th donkey, the wise man, what he did? He simply performed the action of tying to the tree. When the 5th donkey was looking at him, he was performing an action as if he's tying him to the tree. The washerman said, what a crazy idea. What do you mean? Wise man said, don't worry. I have already tied him. The donkey has seen me, that I was tied. But you pretended tying him. Yes, it is only you and me know it, but the donkey doesn't know. Donkey knows that I have already tied him with a tree. The washerman wanted to check. He spent another 5, 10, 15 minutes and the donkey didn't move. The 5th donkey didn't move. There was no rope. And washerman went to the river, washed all the clothes, and he dried all the clothes, loaded on all the 5 donkeys. Now he untied the rope of 4 donkeys. The 5th one There was no rope, so nothing to untie. So the four donkeys started moving towards home, and the fifth one kept standing there. And he got upset. Come on! The donkey didn't move. What happened? Again he got depressed. Why you are not moving? The same wise man returning home in the late evening, and he sighed, oh, did you not untie? Did you not pretend to untie the rope? But the rope is not there. Oh, I pretended to tie the rope when the donkey was looking. So push the donkey to face to the tree and pretend to untie. And the washerman did it, and the ass was ready to move. Remember this. Our mind First, it pretends to tie to get attached. Then it lives into that. When it lives, it forms a habit. Then this habit becomes an obsession. Then we forget that we have pretended to get tied. Now I feel there is a real problem. There is a real problem, but problem is not there. So what is the fundamental problem? The fundamental problem is pretending, is ignorance, is not knowing that I am not tied to anything that causes the attachment, detachment, likes and dislikes, that causes pain and pleasure, victory and defeat, jealousy and hatred. I have to know it. So now the knowledge practice. And that knowledge practice, at the highest level, it is knowledge practice. Otherwise, we can talk about the 6 treasures in the mind. If we have the 6 treasures in the mind, you start living in peace and happiness. So I'm relating it, I'm linking this story of a washerman and a donkey with our 6 treasures. So you will see, as we understand, it will make a sense. But remember the story. Whenever mind dictates you with anxiety, stress, duality, conflict, attachment, detachment, obsession, you have to become aware where the knowledge must be installed in the mind. So when the knowledge is already installed, you become aware, and that awareness drops that what you pretended in the mind while living your day-to-day life. Otherwise, we are totally free in peace and happiness. Let us go a little deeper in understanding that story. So we have to understand the mind. But before understanding the mind, understand the knowledge part. How do we receive the knowledge? The donkey received the wrong knowledge, but he did not know. He knew that it is right. He didn't move. So the first level of the knowledge that we receive from the sense organs of people, place, things, time and events. Then the mind receives the knowledge of the world by ideas. by thoughts, by relating to people, to place, to home, to events. How? Oh, you are there, you are my friend. You are there, you are my husband, wife, daughter, etc., etc. That is the mental concept. That's how we understand and we interact in the world. My father, my mother, son, daughter, worker, my home, my wealth. So here a point of understanding that mind knows what is already known by concepts, by ideas. Mind knows what is hatred and jealousy, etc., 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 and stress and suffering. But then comes the third part, the intellect. Not only knows what the sense organ and the mind has known, but the intellect is capable of knowing what is not known before. The donkey knew that washerman always ties with a rope. So the wise men showed him to tie, pretend tying. It's a habitual mind, obsessed mind. So obsessed mind, and ultimately, oh. So what did I say? Intellect not only knows what is already known by the mind in the sense organ, but it is capable to know what is not known before. What is not known before is our real self, and the real self is, there is a total security in the real self. It is of the nature of permanent peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. It is pure consciousness. That real self. And that is our discovery. That is why we are together. So our true nature, when it is available 24 by 7, where, everywhere, in which condition, in all the conditions, what time, at all the time, what happens, when I discover, it transcends that ignorance by which I feel that I was tied to something that causes this suffering, but the reality is that I'm untied. I have to simply know and understand that. Then comes little and more understanding about the mind and the intellect, sense organs, mind, and the intellect. You see that the mind is in between the intellect on one side and sense organs on the other side. Intellect leads to understanding and the knowledge. Have you exposed the intellect to the right knowledge? Yes, you have done it. That's why we are in the step number 11. So the more and more the intellect is exposed to the right knowledge, what happens? That leads to understanding, that leads to the knowledge. Now the sense organ still wants to play with the objects of the world outside, which causes the suffering. So mind is in between. Sense organ keeps looking at the living in the same world. But if the mind constantly moves towards the sense organ, it follows its pre-programmed nature habit, the way the donkey did it. Donkey couldn't move. When the mind starts moving towards the intellect, what happens? I'm already untied with what causes me the suffering. So that awakens the knowledge in the mind. There is a natural tendency of the mind to run after the world through sense organs. Intellect should be made powerful to ask the mind to follow the knowledge after understanding. That is what we are doing. Who can attain this knowledge? Only the seeker. And the seeker is a tiger cub. Tiger cub means I keep the knowledge inside the mind all the time, that I am the real self, treading the path day and the night in the intellect. So once we have understood the story clearly, anxiety, now I'm untied. I remember, recall, and repeat that I am the real self. Actually, in reality, in the intellect, I am the real self of the nature of peace, happiness, love, wisdom. Nothing that is problem, limitation, anxiety can never touch me. You told me you are a tiger cub, not a cow cub. Tiger meets the tiger alone. We are preparing ourselves for a very remarkable, beautiful journey. After 15 steps, from the 16th, you simply listen, learn, understand, knowledge is installed in the intellect. Even you didn't do any practice, you are already there. Oh, you say, oh, you have a bigger smile in your face. So here from the story we are stressing that we are a seeker. Simply listening to the story, because you have done all these steps, that's why we are here. Practice and wisdom, two things makes us a seeker. Regular practice. Practice outside, I have given you the last practice, so continue doing that practice. But now, hammer your intellect so that what is not known to be known. We understood that real self is our nature. Why we forget? When we forget, then only the problem comes. Now compare it. Do you ever forget your name when you wake up in the morning? You have been waking up for weeks and days and months and years. Never. Do you forget your home? No. Do you ever forget your car that you own? Do you ever forget where is your restroom in your house? Where is your kitchen in the house? Where is your bed? No, I never forget. So what is that? Happen in the intellect, and what did not happen in the intellect that I forget my real self. That is why we need to do the practice regularly until we reach to the state of non-forgetfulness. Non-forgetfulness, ignorance is not there, knowledge is there, and you are free. That forgetfulness leads to ignorance, means incomplete knowledge. Incomplete knowledge, mind forgets my real nature. my real nature. So, step. That is why the step one. So, in what condition the intellect will never forget? If you install the 6 treasures that we are going to understand. Why it is known as inner treasures? Because they are always 24/7 present all the time, in all conditions, in our intellect. It cannot be undone. Condition, we should be a seeker. We should be a seeker. So besides regular practice with wisdom, another practice is the knowledge practice. If I say so, even though knowledge is not a practice, I'm saying for the sake of understanding. And how come that knowledge practice comes by Shravan, Manan? What is Shravan? Listening and learning again and again. So after listening and learning the principles, contemplation in your mind, contemplation in your mind. Listening because knowledge starts making its ground by listening. And that is why you see that 4 or 5 lessons on listening, and the 5th lesson is on the practice. Listening prepares the mind for the knowledge to take a firm ground. But that firmness comes when the mind is pure, when it is inspired, and when it is inspired by the intellect. Did I not tell you sense organ? Intellect in between the mind. So when the intellect has the right knowledge, I have to make a choice by regular listening to move towards the intellect. When it moves towards the intellect, what happens? The mind that was obsessed, habitual, conditioned, it claims it is conditioned like the 5th donkey who saw the wise men pretended to tie him to the tree, is gone. And when it is gone, then we experience happy, calm, instantly, here and now. So as far as the story of a donkey and the washerman is concerned, that is a symbolic expression to show that we should become aware that we feel we are tied. In reality, we are not. How that happens? That happens by viveka. What is viveka? Viveka is discernment. What is discernment? I should see. First, I should see how to separate in the mind, only in the mind, how to separate in the mind anxiety unreal, peace real. Peace is always there. So in a philosophical sense, our master says that viveka is to separate real from the unreal. Bring the story back. Normal discernment in day-to-day life is nothing but you separate, normally, traditionally we say there is a sesame seed which is more or less black, brownish black in color, is mixed with the rice. So we can, by knowing the properties of the rice, which is white in color and brownish red in color is the sesame seed, so we can easily separate based on the properties. So here we are going to separate the real from the unreal. Is the fifth donkey rope is real? No. Donkey claimed that it is real, so he did not move. He realized he was limited, conditioned, that it's already. The same thing happens to the real and the unreal. Unreal do not exist. The moment you start separating real from the unreal. What is real? Real is the real self. First ground in the mind that we are preparing. Viveka takes the mind to the next level. That now we can separate real from the unreal. And the moment you separate, you ease down, you calm down. When? In any condition, at all time. So what happens? That viveka, that discernment takes you to the next state of intellect or the mind, you can say. That state is known as dispassion. Dispassion takes the root. Oh, I don't want to be angry, agitated, upset. Whatever is happening in the world. Why? I feel that as if I'm untied. It is not complete, but you feel. So when we continue the journey, we discover peace and calm enters the mind inside and outside. And that means I feel calmness without doing anything, just by the knowledge that is settled in the intellect. So what we say now, the inner treasures are manifesting. Inner treasures. And the first inner treasure is what we say, sama. Sama means peace. Sham. Normally we say sam. Sam, shanti, peace. And as we continue, sama is the chief out of the 6 treasures. Instant peace is there. Why? It is already within us. So mind that was pretending that I was tied down now realizes there is nothing to be tied to the world outside. When you live into the state of being untied, that leads to dispassion, and dispassion awakens within us the first treasure, which is known as sham, peace. And then the dham. Dham is leaving the world as it is. Second treasure. What do you mean by leaving the world as it is? Leaving the dream world which scared you. But when you wake up, no more fear. The third treasure we say uparati. Now you are living above the world. Previously you were living below the world. Above the world. Below the world. And when you are a seeker, you are moving at par with the world. Sometimes you go down, sometimes you have a glimpse of going up, but the inner treasure helps us to go above, live above the world. There are many past impressions are there that triggers our mind, takes us to the same, tied down with an imaginary rope. So we have the fourth treasure, titiksha. Now we have an endurance to deal with it. We have a patience to deal. It does not mean that you are sitting with eyes closed and then you practice Endurance. You are very much living in the same world. Your intellect shines with the wisdom coming from the teachings of our great masters. That is what I call the Eastern wisdom. Titiksha, endurance, patience. Now you realize that my mind is tied, imaginarily tied with something that is causing the anxiety. So you have an endurance. Now I'm not going to get disturbed. No way. We will understand that in detail later. And then what happens? By regular listening and practicing, the intellect, the mind constantly moves and lives with the knowledge that you have gained now. So, what happens? Can you imagine the fifth treasure? It gives you a tremendous faith in you that I cannot be disturbed. It was the mind tied to an imaginary rope. That is what is known as the faith. We will understand what is the faith. And the sixth one then comes samadhanam. Samadhana normally means you can translate that as a solution. Solution of what? All the problems. But other meaning is that now the mind is naturally focused on the real self. It wants to discover. It is ready to take a leap. Are you understanding that our mind is tied in imagination with a rope? That rope is attachment, likes and dislikes. With a tree is the world outside. And then the mind claims, I am suffering. I have a problem with you, with he, she, it. I'm not finding complete security in my relations, in the wealth, in the possessions. I continue to suffer. All these challenges have disappeared because they do not exist, my friend. The tiger chasing me in the dream do not exist. So when these six treasures, if I say installed in the intellect by clear understanding, then it flows to the mind, and the mind makes its flow to the sense organs, to the world outside. Calm, peace, joy. That is the power of six treasures. Let us recap. What do we know and understand by the word mind? Mind is an inner instrument. How come the mind is an inner instrument? I can see you, you see me, I see all the world of objects through the sense organ. So why it is known as inner, or sometimes we say it is a subtle instrument. Why we say that? Can I see my thoughts, feeling, emotions that is moving on into the mind? I don't see it. So it's not physical, it's subtle. That's why the mind is an inner instrument. That is one example to explain it. Now when we talk about the mind has four functions in two pairs. One pair, mind and the memory. Do you still remember what I told? The mind and the sense organ knows only what is already known to the mind. And the mind keeps continuing moving into like a DVD. So you buy a DVD with all the songs anytime. Today or after 10 years, you put that DVD to play, it will all constantly sing the same song again and again. One pair. Second pair is the intellect, and the ego takes birth in the intellect. Or if I say the ego sits in the intellect. When this ego takes the shape of objects and people and the things outside, how I am husband, wife, daughter, son, I am wealthy, I am poor, I am stressed, etc., etc. Add everything. I am, and after that you add all the adjectives, nouns. Why it has taken birth like this? Because the mind with its experiences tied in imagination to the world outside. And only the knowledge can drop it. Listening, learning, contemplation, and reflection will drop this wrong notion and the ideas. At this stage, you have already covered 10 steps. See another example when the mind and the intellect divide by emotion and thought, then couple feels separate. Look at the example of a couple. He's already separate. But what happens in the intellect and the mind? Knowledge, separate by emotion and the thought. Okay. When they have one mind and one intellect, then the love and the wisdom flows. You separate me, no longer teacher, no longer student. But some relations helps us. Why I explain this? I explain this because we were talking about the 6 treasures. The ego hides. Ego in the intellect hides the 6 treasures coming from the real self. That is why we are understanding this. Now see what is the nature of the entire world is. We breathe 24/7. Does the air in the universe say and claim that I'm helping you breathe? What we are doing? We are dropping that very strong ego identified with the rope in imagination coming from the mind. We drop it. There are many ways to explain the same story. Those who do not integrate the entire Eastern wisdom, those who separate, oh, this is the Gyan Yoga, this is no Gyan Yoga or Vedanta, and this is Hatha Yoga, this is Raj Yoga, this is Bhakti Yoga. They have their typical way of doing it, and that is also right. But here I am tying the story with our mind, intellect, and the ego. Does the space say to us, I'm helping you to move? Does the water say, I'm helping you to drink? Do they charge any bill? Does the air send any bill? Oh, you have been breathing for so many years, you have to pay the bill. No bills are charged by the space and the earth, the air, the water, and the sun. Why we tie ourselves? With any thought which claims I have anxiety, stress, duality, conflict, reaction, blame, complaint, game. Why it happens? Our master says because of the impurities in the mind. Prevents. So first thing, the ego in the intellect that hides the sixth treasure because of the certain thought pattern, the wrong notions and the ideas. These wrong notions and idea are constantly looking outside for complete security and the pleasure. They are the impurities. Once they drop down, the six treasures return with the full glory. Listening, contemplation, reflection. When there is a clarity, when there is a conviction in the intellect, these six treasures which were hiding behind the intellect, supported and dictated by the mind full of impurities, we are lost. It is happening, everything is happening inside. So we have to awaken to the knowledge, listening and learning again. Understand, very important part, that seed does not become a tree overnight. What that means? The knowledge knowledge is not realized instantly. It can happen if the mind is perfectly pure. What the teachers are saying, you listen from the teacher and you are already there. It happens in rare cases. But before that, we have to, the knowledge has to be realized in stages by constant listening, learning, practice. And that is what the master says. Fourfold practices leads to become a seeker. Discernment. First, in the intellect, separate. Ego says, I'm not going to separate, I'm trying. No, but your master, your teacher gives you that, no, separate. This is one perception, that is one. This is 1 second. Are you really tied? Look at it clearly. Are you really tied to the world? Look at it. See it. Reflect on it. What you will find, you are already untied. Separating. Discernment. And that discernment leads to dispassion. Dispassion means, oh, now I see I'm already untied. Attachment, no. Detachment, no. Anger, no. Hesitation, no. Duality, no. Conflict, no. No? Because of that, the ego goes away. Ego goes away. I move into the humility, kindness, peace, and happiness. And then we start awakening to we start awakening to these six stressors. Discernment simply means the intellect is pure, means it is not dictated by the mind. What it takes? Just sit calmly, become aware of the thought pattern, filter those thought pattern that is tied in imagination. The best way is to repeat in your mind the thoughts that we share today. Peace is my essential nature. I told you that I had a wonderful girl from the Eastern Europe, disturbed by the noise all around. So today she learned that, okay, let me say I am in peace. Peace is my essential nature. That is what I learned from the Eastern wisdom. So it is like how do we get the knowledge? By the thought process. Thought is nothing but it contains the knowledge. Now when you repeat in your mind, I am in stress, I am in stress, I am in anxiety, then what happens? Now you see, it is with a firm determination I am saying I am in peace. Mind will bring in the same old pattern thoughts, I am in anxiety, I am in peace. With awareness, it will separate discernment. So now what happens in that state of discernment? Mind says pleasure is outside. Intellect says no, happiness is inside. Do you remember what I told you? Mind in between, intellect is on the other side, and the sense organ. The mind continues to move towards the sense organ is not the way. By installing the knowledge in the intellect, now the knowledge is there. Even if the mind is running, mind will return back. Instantly from that anxiety and the reaction, why you become aware. No, it doesn't make a sense. No, it makes a sense. No, it doesn't make a sense. Your mind may be saying. And I'm stressing again, it makes a sense. No, it doesn't make a sense. It makes a sense. You want to see the example? Yes. Looking at me, be angry. There is no reason. What your mind said, there is no reason to be angry. You cannot become when you move to the next level of awareness. Now see, keep smiling and the smile comes to you. Instantly. You don't ask me. Give me a reason to smile. And you are a seeker. So it is not a big deal for you. So when we live, so you see, there are many stages. Even if I can categorize the different stages of discernment. And after the discernment, we have, what happens? The discernment drops your pride, your delusion and ignorance. But mind can enter there. But when the viveka, the discernment becomes stronger, it leads to dispassion. So you can see there are many ways to explain this word dispassion. So one type of dispassion where your intellect do not allow the sense organ to get tied to the objects in imagination. That is, you can say, one type of dispassion. The second type of dispassion, now that your mind and the intellect is not at all attached to any objects of the world. And when that happens, you are there. So we are understanding the first part of the six treasures, how to awaken to those six treasures in your day-to-day life. So as we grow into the discernment and dispassion, then what happens? Then gradually we move to six treasures. They are already there. It is already there. Where? In my intellect. But why it is already there? It is coming from the real self. They are the different layers of manifestation of our true nature. Can I see clearly in my head with the knowledge supported by the Eastern wisdom that all causes of our suffering is because the mind pretends that we are tied with an imaginary rope with the tree that is the world outside, and that world is nothing but of people, of place, of objects, of things, of wealth, etc. It's a long list. Like the washerman who got upset, lost one rope, how to tie. We lose rope every day, every minute, every second. Oh, what I have done. I should not have done this. I have done this. No. Let me talk to the person again. Untie. You're already untied. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Tie yourself with the Om. What is Om? Designator of the real self. Where it is? It is deep inside, behind the body and the mind. Om Shanti. Then there is nothing but the Shanti, the peace, starts expressing itself. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Even, when we say Om Shanti, 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 mind is somewhere. It is already tied. It is not tied, but the mind feels that imaginary rope of attachment tied to the tree of the world. Just say it. Shanti. Doesn't matter. You say it with eyes open or Shanti. Shanti. Thank you.